What is up, Internet world, and welcome back to Accelerate. I'm Mike, he's Ian, and today we bring the 2023 Cayman GTS. So here we are in 2023 talking about a vehicle that was launched in 2017. This guy is called the Cayman, and it's the hardtop version of a Boxer, or Boxster, depending where you're from. Now, it's important to note that when the Cayman was launched, people were saying that it's going to steal business from the 911, mainly because this is a mid-engine car. You see, the engine is right here in the middle of the car, versus in the back all the way here. Now, in car terms, obviously you can't have an engine in the middle of the car, but it's called mid-engine when the engine is between this rim and this rim. You see, most front-engine cars, engine's right here, but you can actually also have a mid-engine car where the engine is in the middle here and the middle here. Anyways, different story about that guy. You see, the Cayman is actually available in many different models. You can actually get one that is so expensive. It's called the Spider RS, which is brand new, and it's like $215,000 all the way to the base, which is like 68 grand. And then there's this, the Cayman GTS.
All right, Internet world, this thing is a beast. It is an absolute terror. Okay, so this one is the cheapest one you can get into if you want the 4-liter. Now, it's been detuned from the GT4. This is the GTS 4-liter because models underneath it, like the S, makes 350 horsepower and 309 pound-feet of torque, and those are turbocharged flat 4s. But this thing is a 4-liter flat 6, and man, it is so good in the upper RPM range. So we're gonna launch this thing. I'm in Sport Plus, foot to the ground. I'm gonna hit the Sport Response button, which is a button I can push. I got 20 seconds, foot to the ground. Listen to this thing. Oh my God. Oh my God. Woohoo, baby. 3.85. That is the most violent 3.85. I can't even hold my spit together here. Ever. Like, it's so much fun to do. It is so much fun to do. Okay, one more time. Okay, to the ground. Sport Response on. 20 seconds. 6,500 RPM watch. Oh God. 3.70. This is amazing. Like, it is so fun. It is so fun. And that is just the launch. The handling is on a whole new world. Oh, it's a whole new world. Now, traditionally, you'd probably want a manual transmission because you'd save yourself the $4,250 it costs to get the PDK, but this gearbox is magical. This shifting is the fastest thing ever. It is so quick to shift. Now, just listen to this, okay? Listen. Okay, watch the upshift. Downshifting. One more time. It's instant, upshift. It can sing to me all day. There's this magical note between 5,500 RPM and 7,500 RPM. It is beautiful to listen to. This might sound crazy, but this is like VTEC back in the 2000s on steroids. The sound of this thing in third gear at 6,000 RPM is magical. It's just got this like harmonious note. So back to the differences between the manual transmission and the automatic. The manual transmission has a higher top speed, obviously more driver engagement, great shift linkage, but the automatic shifts like a monster. The launch controls off the chains, and of course just easier to drive, and then everybody can drive it. The shifting again is crazy, but there's not too much involvement besides hitting a bunch of paddles, which are made out of fancy aluminum, not plastic. Also, this thing weighs like somewhere around 3,100 pounds or so, which is fairly light considering the BMW M2 weighs like 3,800 pounds. That's 700 pounds lighter. This thing destroys the M2 around corners. It is rear-wheel drive, but it doesn't really feel like it's rear-wheel drive. It just does a really good job planting itself, versus the M2 spins all around town. The back end comes out so loosely, and this one plants itself that you feel super safe, comfortable no matter what speed you drive. It is just better than the 911s we've driven in terms of handling. It just handles so well. It's also tough to drive on the daily because these seats are like so buckety and 90 degrees. It's tough on your back. On the highway, this thing is difficult. It's not easy at all to drive. That's only because of the seats, not the suspension. The suspension is good. It's soft enough that it's not overly stiff. So suspension-wise is good because it's crazy, because the way this thing handles, it's like it's a total track star, but it has some give to it. I can only imagine what the RS drives like. It must be like bonkers.
To the front of the 718 Cayman GTS 4.0. In Python green. I cannot stop staring at this color. It is so bright and crazy. You either love it or absolutely hate it. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this color. Now, it obviously looks very Panamera-ish because of these headlights. It doesn't look 911-ish, definitely Panamera-ish. Now, when I move down from this bumper, you can see you do have inlets here. You obviously have this DRL LED and sort of a black, beat me up lower lip. But that's not important. The important part is on this vehicle, you actually have a front trunk. To the side of the Macan GTS that's on the TV. And then there's this, the Cayman GTS in Python green. Python green there, Python green here. This one's got 20-inch wheels with Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's. It does have active damping. It does have a lower stance than the normal S, actually 0.8 inches lower. It does have active engine mounts. And of course, again, it is obviously rear-wheel drive because it is a Porsche rear-wheel drive. That's cool to know. The most annoying part to me about the Cayman is the back end. This part here has just always been really ugly. I'm not a huge fan of this part. It just makes me detest this thing. The front though and the middle, money, especially with this GTS little treatment down here, GTS 4.0. And then of course you have this big intake on the side. It is massive. There's tons of air flowing in it. That is really cool. I like it. All right, the back, time to get out of this seat. Oh my God, these sport bucket seats are tough to get out of. Rear axle has torque vectoring. Now, if you look at the back here, of course, this is a very small car. It's not big at all. Very small. If we start at the top, it has this rear tailgate that's from here to here. This is not obviously a trunk. This is a fastback style car. There is no sunroof, just this guy right there. You have this little lip or spoiler. That's nice because you have Porsche right underneath. And then of course 718 Cayman GTS in all black. That's a staple of a GTS. Moving down from there, you have Parktronic, your camera, and then you have this lower valence in satin black with of course sport exhaust. And if you want to know what it sounds like, well, take a listen. So there are three quick things I want to talk about before I get into the actual space in the trunk. The first thing is the design of these taillights. This is why I don't like it. It has this bug eye / alien look around here. Not a big fan. Number two, this spoiler is active. It does go up and down. And thirdly, in terms of getting into this trunk, because it is a fastback style design, you can't unlock it from the back anywhere unless you have the key in your hand. The only way to do it is obviously to run back here, pull this up, it notches up, and then I can show you how much room there is, which is partly the main reason you buy one of these things. It's a small car, but you have a lot of room. You have the frunk, obviously in the front. Then you have the trunk, which is right here. And then you have the engine, which is right there, but there's a compartment on top, which is this. And you can put a suitcase and then strap it down with these little hooks or tie downs. But it's a lot of room. And then of course in the cabin, there's a lot of room as well. There is a hidden compartment, actually two of them in this area. It's all the way here. It's kind of cool and funky. I can pull that back and there's some storage in there. That's cool. Here I am getting into the driver's seat of the Cayman. These are full out bucket seats. Like when I say bucket, I mean real bucket. You can't recline it. You can only move it up, down, forwards, and backwards. They're all carbon and these are all the money. They look so sick. Now, I'm not 100% certain if these are 918 Spider seats, but man, these things are mean, lean, and definitely not a dancing machine. Wow, this car feels very raw and rugged. Now, time for some criticizing. The door panel, it's got blank buttons. It thinks it has two windows in the back, but it doesn't. There's a lot of blank buttons here. This is very dated. Very, very dated. And it may make sense for people that are not in 2023 or are on the path of like, hey, there's too much technology in other cars, like that BMW M2. I want something a bit more, you know, reliable. So this car will fit that bill. It's got lots of suede, lots of carbon, lots of leather, and lots of mechanical buttons. And to be critical, there are buttons that shouldn't be here. Like these two blank buttons to pretend that there's back windows, or 5 blank buttons right here. Now I know it costs money to replace this little panel that's different, or if you don't order the option, but come on, you gotta get rid of this stuff. And even this tape player, when you lift it up, they've now replaced it with 2 SD cards instead of just getting rid of it. They're just cheating, I would say. Anyways, back to the car itself. Very skinny door panels. This car is very, very light, so they're trying to minimize weight where they can. It does obviously have automatic headlights. There is no fancy cruise control that's adaptive. There's cruise control, but it's not adaptive. The steering wheel is very plain Jane with fancy paddle shifters. You, of course, have your different sport modes. You have normal, sport, sport plus, and individual. You have no heads-up display. It's strictly just you, the steering wheel, and these seats, and this engine. It does have CarPlay. It does have a 7-inch measly screen, but it's okay because nobody's buying this for tech. They're buying it for storage because there's a lot of it. The center armrest has a good amount. The door panels have 2 areas to store stuff. You have a very big glove box and the coolest cup holders in today's world. You see, this was retro cup holders. They got rid of it in some Audis, but not in this Porsche. They're keeping it. Check this out. How cool is this? I love that they have this. For folks that don't know cars, back in the 80s and 90s, this was a staple. Cup holders that would pop out of the dash was the coolest thing. I know coffee would go all over your infotainment back then, but that was okay because that reminds me of the old days. So why should you buy a GTS? Why can't you just buy an S and load up all the little toys that you want? Well, everybody on the planet knows the GTS gives you all these little tidbits as a package. It's cheaper to do it that way than buy all the individual pieces. So you get Porsche's active suspension management, you get this torque vectoring on the back, you get active engine mounts, you get a sport exhaust, obviously you get this cool little red dial in the middle and the tack.
You get a lower ride height, and of course, you get the GTS treatment on the side that says GTS 4.0. So, well, I guess that's a reason. Of course, the motor is better. So here's the beef with this car. It costs 90,000 US dollars or 123,000 Canadian, which is a boatload of money when you get inside it and look at everything around you, because this is so dated. It's not modernized at all. Sure, you have plug-in CarPlay, but come on, this is dated as hell. But the drive, would you buy this or a 1-year-old 911? That is a really good question. And if it was just a pure driver's car, this all day. People compare this to an M2, but the M2 is bloated and it's a crazy drift machine. This thing is a track star. People even compare this to a Nissan Z, and I have no idea why. It was like Nissan wants to compete against this, but it doesn't whatsoever. The thing is that before I actually driven a Cayman, I just didn't think it was this expensive. I felt for like 70,000 bucks or 65 US, you could get something like this that would handle like this, that made this kind of power. That's why I felt people bought them. I didn't realize it was this expensive. So if you have deep pockets and you want a track toy and you just don't want to have a 911 and don't care about having that extra heft to it, then a Cayman all day. And this is the middle of the pack Cayman with the good motor. So you start spending big money on the RS Spider. It's like 210 grand fully loaded, which is crazy. But I guess they sell them. That's why they're still priced this way. But it does put a smile on your face. And if you're divorced and you're like YOLO, and you want a 2-seater car because you don't want to be a taxi for everybody else, then YOLO. YOLO on this color, Python green. I don't know, man, really good, really, really good. Porsche just knows how to do it. So, anyways, hope you guys like this review on this 2023 Cayman GTS in Python green. I sure enjoyed having this car for a week. Would I buy this or the M2? Tough decisions. Let me know in the comments below. Catch you on the next one.